Hi, I'm Lauren.
And I'm Matt.
And this is Publish and Prosper,
where publishing, e-commerce, and marketing collide.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Publish and Prosper. This one is kind of a big deal because it is officially our 100th episode. We are at the big 3 digits, 100.
I forgot about that.
Did you?
I did.
Wow.
Yeah.
You were so focused on this being like an interesting episode topic, or maybe, what are you doing? Oh, God. I told you I was going to leave if I didn't have confetti. There is confetti coming. He just doesn't know it. It's okay. I'll wait.
All right.
Do you feel festive now?
I did until you made me sit here for 5 minutes while you got
Excuse me? You got up and walked
I'm just kidding.
out.
I'm joking. You ready to take the picture?
Yeah. I think we're good.
Sorry to interrupt.
You got a big one. Hell yeah. You don't even know how to use them. There we go. Now it's 100 episodes. That's what you should be doing. Is that why you told me there weren't any big ones out there?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
You understood the assignment.
I did understand the assignment.
Good.
Thank you. Anyway, happy 100 episodes.
Oh.
Nailed it.
All right.
Can we get back to recording now?
We are recording.
We sure are.
Yeah.
We sure are. Editing this is going to be so much fun. Anyway, it's been 100 episodes.
100. Or it will be 100 after this one.
This is episode number 1. Well, technically we have a preview episode or an intro episode that's episode 0. So it has been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's episode 0, so it doesn't count.
Right. But we made it one way or another.
We made it to
How's
100.
it feel?
I feel like I'm 100.
It is also your birthday today. The day that we are recording
As we
this.
record this, yeah.
It is Matt's birthday. So you're feeling
as it
extra
airs,
old.
Yeah, as it airs, it's a week after my birthday.
Yes.
So I am half the amount of years old as episodes we've recorded.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, a little more.
Wow. And and I bet you feel every minute of those episodes.
All the time.
Yep. Well, we did it. We made it to 100 episodes.
Yep.
Not that we're ending here. We have plenty left to go.
No, I finally got a confetti cannon, so we're definitely not ending here. You just secured your job for another year.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Thank goodness. This will be our last episode for 2025, though.
Boo.
Well.
Actually, that's okay.
Yeah.
I need a vacation.
Right. So we're going to take a break for the month of December, and we will be back in the new year with new episodes.
I'm going to take this off, though, because it's cutting into the side of my face.
Thank goodness. All right. We can leave them here, though. They're very decorative.
Okay. They're very pointy, too.
They sure are.
Yeah.
They sure are. So we thought to, celebrate 100 episodes and also kind of to wrap up the year that we've had here, that this would be a good time for us to kind of follow up on last week's episode, which was looking back on industry trends and other things that were happening throughout 2025, and thought we might talk through some things that we think are coming in 2026, or maybe not coming, but continuing on in 2026.
I think continuing, or maybe even some emerging trends.
Yeah.
Maybe stuff that's not quite obvious just yet.
Yep.
Things like that. I don't like the word prediction, so I've asked Lauren not to use the word prediction.
I tried
which
really
I think
hard.
is hard. Yeah, it is hard because everybody does Like every podcast does a prediction episode for the most part, or every blog, writer will write a predictions blog. And I think that word is way overused, but I don't think anybody's making true predictions. We're all just giving our opinions and weighing in on trends.
Yeah.
Dying, emerging trends, whatever.
Yeah. Some big ones, some small ones.
Yeah.
Maybe some fun ones, maybe some straightforward ones. We also have not compared notes on this, which I think will be really interesting.
Yep.
I don't know what Matt's predictions are going to be, and he doesn't know what mine are going to be.
I mean, you could probably guess what some of mine are going to be, but still.
I could guess if I wanted to put some money on it. I did I went through my whole ridiculous t-shirt collection last night, and somehow I don't have any t-shirts that have Madame Leota or any kind of crystal ball on it or whatever. I wore my Magic 8-Ball shirt, which is the closest that I could get to it.
I don't have a Madame Leota shirt either. I do have Madame Leota tattooed on my arm.
That's true, you do.
Yeah.
That's true, you do.
But I'm going to leave that covered for now.
That's
I don't want it to influence anything here.
That's fair. So we will not be pulling out any crystal balls for this episode or Magic 8-Balls.
No.
But
let
we will make some
let the record
educated-
show we are huge fans of
Yes.
Madame Leota tombs, and she will not be making an entrance in this episode, even though we love her.
Do you realize that a very recent episode, I wore my Leota Tombs fan club shirt?
Yeah, it was
Great.
the last
Excellent.
episode, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was one that came out today.
Yeah.
Yep. Great. We're doing so good.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I think you think that I don't pay attention.
I
And
know
sometimes I'm
better.
not paying attention.
No. I know better than to assume that you are not paying attention because you pay attention to things that I think that you're
probably
not
the wrong
paying attention to, and then all of a sudden I find out the hard way that you totally caught that.
Well, and then there's other things where I'm in a meeting or something, and I'm like, I said that?
Yeah.
And you guys are like, yeah. And I'm like, and it's either really good or really stupid. So
We do frequently threaten to record all conversations with Matt.
you probably should.
We
It
probably
shouldn't-
should.
It shouldn't be a threat. It should be a given.
I do have all this equipment. I should be doing this more often.
Well, I mean, you got Gemini and Otter and everything else on our laptop. So
Yeah.
All right, let's jump in.
Okay, sounds good. You want to
want-
go first, or
You want me to go first?
sure? Yeah.
Okay. I wrote my 3 down.
Wow.
Yeah, because I didn't want any eyes to see it first. I didn't want any spoilers.
Breaking news.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go for it.
So my first one is that print on demand will switch from being a cost center into a competitive advantage for forward-thinking publishers. And what I mean by that is, yes, there are a lot of publishers that are using print on demand now as part of their supply chain, as part of their distribution chain, as a way to fulfill certain products or test certain things. And hats off to them. And I think those are the ones that are going to continue leaning into print on demand into 2026 for a lot of reasons. And I think others who have been sitting back and kind of watching, or have felt a little bit trepidatious or hesitant, will realize in 2026, especially by the middle of the year, that they really should. Print on demand models will become as important, I think, to the publishing supply chain as some of the other things that have surfaced over the years, including AI to a degree. And we'll get to that. But I think right now, certain people view the print on demand model and even digital printing to a degree, even if they are using it a little bit, as more of a cost center. But I think more and more people, publishers, small, medium, and large, especially medium and large, those are the ones that have to really pay attention to even the most minute, increments of a percentage point of margin. Like, they have to watch that like a hawk, and that's really how they make. I mean, we've talked about this before. The large traditional publishing houses, they make decisions about books based on projected sales and what it will do to their P&L sheets. Point blank. It doesn't mean there aren't people who enjoy good literature working in publishing houses. In fact, there's probably tons of them. But at the end of the day, most of the big ones, they're owned by media companies. They have shareholders and stockholders and people that they report to. So they have to be thinking about things like, will this change fundamentally the way that we approach our supply and distribution chains in a positive way, where our shareholders, our stockholders, our owners are going to see benefits there. And, so I think POD, print on demand, is definitely going to become a much larger presence in 2026. And I say that based on the steam that it's picked up this year in 2025, the conversations I've been having personally with people at traditional publishing houses and other organizations, as well as what we're seeing out there from others who are kind of doing the same thing.
I had a very similar prediction. Oh, sorry. I used the forbidden word. I had a very similar idea with that. I did say that for whether it's going to be for socioeconomic reasons or for just like cost benefit reasons, or just because, despite the fact that I do think that the traditional publishing industry takes longer to pick up on trends than some other industries do, they do eventually get there. A little bit resistant to change, and I know that that's fair, but I do think that we are going to see a lot more traditional publishers looking for new solutions, new to them, not new to the world, new solutions for bringing costs down and bringing their production not necessarily in-house, but in-continent, perhaps. Like, I think that they're going to be looking for more local printers, for solutions that do not require ordering 10,000 copies offset printed overseas that then have to be shipped and sometimes lost at sea, sometimes take 6 months to get here, paying like international tariffs, stuff like that. I think that that's something that, for a variety of different reasons, more and more publishers next year are really going to be looking at, if not complete like POD digital printing solutions, at the very least a hybrid way to kind of merge that into their existing strategies.
Yeah, and I think that's all accurate. And again, what's great about print on demand, and I didn't mean to talk this long about it, but it's not just the direct financial ramifications of utilizing and integrating a print on demand model into your supply and distribution chains, but it's all the trickle down effects. So offset saves you money on printing. There's no argument there. And there's, offset printing produces a really good book. And there are offset printers in the US, really good ones, that will continue to get used. And let's not mince words here. I mean, upwards of 80% of the print books that are in the market right now were offset print, so that'll still be a thing. It's more about, offset print brings other costs with it, right? You're getting a cost savings on the printing, but now you're doing more heavy lifting in terms of shipping. Now those have to be warehoused. They have to be fulfilled. They have to be reshipped to distribution centers or other retailers. Then you have books potentially sitting on the shelf in the warehouse. There's a depreciation there. There's obsolescence rates. There's returns that start to stack up. So it brings with it all of these other costs, whereas print on demand, when utilized in a really smart and effective way, gets rid of those costs. So yes, the per unit cost on a book is higher than an offset unit, but you're getting rid of warehousing. You're getting rid of all the labor involved in fulfillment and pick and pack and shipping. You're getting rid of those other shipping routes. You're actually decreasing the amount of shipping time, right? You're doing a lot of things to get rid of those associated costs. So it's not even necessarily a strategy about replacing offset anytime soon, because it still is the most cost-effective way to have large numbers of books printed, although you will see, like you mentioned, more and more of it being done in the U.S., the offset printing, than outside of the U.S. through, because of geopolitical stuff and other things. But the other problem with that is that offset, they have minimum order quantities, and those MOQs make it pretty much cost prohibitive if you need to do a shoulder run of, let's say, 800 units. You know what I mean? That's just not... A test copy, by the way, when you're setting up a new title in offset, to get a proof copy, right? We used to flip out because BookBaby would charge like $49 for a proof copy. And we were all like, oh my God, that's crazy. But a proof copy for an offset run, a new title setup, can be anywhere from $400 to $1,000 for one proof copy. Like, there are just costs associated with it, that make things somewhat cost prohibitive. So there's other stuff, but again, being able to stay within border or closest to your buyer is really going to have a lot of benefits. You're right about that too.
I think there's also just a lot of ways that, having had experience working in a traditional publishing house, I think there are a lot of in-house ways that digital printing and POD could be really helpful for them. Even when it comes to things like proof copies or, something like an ARC, which is still a, less polished, watered down version that still has to be produced, and that still takes time. And that's still if they place the order for them a few months ahead of time, which is how they have to do it.
Yeah.
And then something happens where they get a really cool, kind of once in a lifetime earned promo opportunity, but they have to have a physical copy of the book in hand to send to this company to get it included in a roundup or a book box or something like that. They don't want to have to wait for those single proofs to come in, or maybe they've already ordered exactly the number of ARCs that they expected to need, and suddenly an opportunity comes up that they need more, and you can just run off a couple copies with print on demand.
Yeah.
So I do think that there's going to be a lot more ways that people are going to be using this stuff in-house and also in larger business strategy next year.
Yeah. The in-house thing, again, for some that is a big deal. For some it might not be. But the last part of that would be this idea that, as a publisher, there are times where you need to test titles. And you need to test titles for seasonality. You need to test them in new markets. You might just need to test a new title in general. Again, having the agility and flexibility that comes with a print-on-demand model makes that much easier and more cost-effective with a much lower lift. So, that kind of stuff, absolutely correct. Okay, what's your first one?
We talked about this a little bit in the last episode, but I'm going to bring it up here again. I think a lot more authors as well as publishers are going to be looking at the hybrid solutions available to them. And I don't necessarily mean hybrid publisher in the way that we've talked about them in the past as a self-publisher, indie publisher that will help you with the production or the marketing or whatever. That's not what I'm talking about. I mean, people that are going to say, okay, well, I have this traditional deal, I have a contract with a traditional publisher, and I am going to continue publishing the books that I have in that contract with them, but I also want to take back some of my own control, and I also want to take back some of my audience and ways to communicate, and I want to start approaching this as a business, as a brand, as my author brand, regardless of who my publisher is and what my publishing contract looks like. And I think that we're going to see a lot more authors in the year to come that are going to be doing a mix of traditional publishing and self-publishing. And specifically with that self-publishing, doing things like selling direct, building their email lists, connecting with their readers, looking for ways to, not necessarily take back control, but not be relying on their publisher for a lot of that stuff.
Just to be clear, what is your first one? One sentence, what is it?
That in 2026, authors are going to be investing more into building their own brands, not just relying on traditional publishers or existing contracts or whatever it is. That authors are going to start approaching their author brand as a business. They're going to treat it as a business, and they are either going to be turning to print on demand direct sales solutions, or they are going to be blending those into their existing traditional publishing contracts and practices that way.
That's a good one. I don't know that I have much to add to that one, since you put it so succinctly the first time right then and there. I think you're correct, in my opinion. I think we're already seeing that. And I think that this year we saw so much more of an awareness and education happening around those things. And it had been building to this, right? Events that we would go to, stuff that you see online, content, blog articles, things like that. These topics kept getting touched on, and then more and more, and then more and more. And then this year it was really, if you went to any author event or even a lot of publishing events, most of what was being talked about was direct sales, authors building platforms and communities, or, of course, AI. So I think you're right. And I think 2026 is where you will probably see that inflection point where, again, I don't think there's any way around it. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, I do think that that's something that we've seen kind of broad strokes in general at conferences over the last few years. We've talked about this off air recently, coming back from events like Author Nation or even me at Momentum. Like, we used to go to these events and the first half of the conversation would be trying to convince people why they needed a book, or trying to convince people why self-publishing was a good alternative to traditional publishing, or why, there was just like why they should be going wide with their book sales, why, like what direct sales even was, let alone why it was valuable to be doing that. And we, over the last few years, we've seen this like steady kind of trimming down of those conversations. We no longer need to convince people that self-publishing is a good option. We no longer need to convince people that going wide is a better deal than relying entirely on Amazon. We no longer need to explain to people what direct sales are or what that means. Like, we're seeing this like slowly, but not slowly, because it's very much like year over year where we're seeing like this awareness kind of spreading, and we don't need to do the sales pitch anymore. It's now just, okay, how do I do these things? How can you help me do these things? And I think that we're going to continue to see that in the year to come.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. All right. What else you got?
My second non-prediction continuing trend or emerging trend, depending on how you look at this one. I think AI will be integrated into most publishing chains by the middle of 2026. And I think that as such, I feel like over 80% of titles will have been touched by AI one way or another. So I don't care if it's traditional publishing, self-publishing, hybrid publishing. I feel like by the end of next year, or even the middle of next year, really, based on the progress of tools that are coming out, the adoption rate of the publishing industry as a whole, but even certain publishers, the adoption rate of AI tools for productivity, for things like, automated workflows, personalized reader experiences, editing grammar, metadata optimization, like that stuff is really important for discoverability, and even recommendation engines, like, in certain reader sites or things like that. I think by the middle of 2026, there won't be a title released, maybe 15 to 20% of them, but I think most of them, if not all of them, will have been touched by AI one way or another. And I think a lot of people are going to hate that statement, but understand what I say when I say touched by AI, more from a productivity and automated workflow standpoint, not from a creative standpoint. Right. You're definitely going to see it creeping into like cover art and, inside illustrations and things like that. But I think it'll still be very noticeable, and people will revolt against that, and they probably should. But where you won't necessarily see it or feel it, because you don't right now. So the publishers and the people that are using AI for productivity, for automations, for metadata, optimization, for better discovery, you don't even realize it. You don't feel it. You don't see it. You can't really touch it, but it's there, and it's helping people sort of get books to market faster, more efficiently, and sell more books. And that's what everybody's trying to do.
I think that that's a really important part of that conversation that tends to get overlooked, is that people hear AI and they immediately just assume we're talking about AI writing books or AI designing covers or AI, having that kind of creative involvement. And not saying that doesn't happen and that it's not going to continue to happen.
Way too much.
And absolutely way too much. And I don't agree with or support any of that. I think my stance on that is very clear.
I think the one thing you and I agree on is that we'll never agree with AI taking creative control over, a book, especially a work of fiction, but even nonfiction, will never agree to that concept. We'll always agree on that. Same with cover art. I don't care how good AI gets. I need a human being that's got the majority control, if not all control over that.
Yes. But I do think that understanding that there is a lot of opportunity on the back end of production, of marketing, of metadata, discoverability, all that stuff. There is a lot of behind the scenes stuff that a lot of the average consumer doesn't even realize is happening.
Nor cares about.
Right. So I do think that's a very reasonable prediction. Educated statement, educated guess. I don't know.
Let's call it my opinion on emerging trend.
Should I use ChatGPT to look up synonyms for prediction?
Well, the prediction piece there is that I feel by the middle of 2026, more than 80% of new titles released will have been touched by AI in one way or another.
Yeah.
That could be an obvious one or not so obvious. For some people, they'll probably hear that and go, this dude's out of his mind. And others will hear it and go, yeah, duh.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just how I feel.
No, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I think that's reasonable.
What's your second one?
So kind of on the heels of AI in general and this idea of it being used more, whether it's a positive or negative, I think that I've been a part of, I've witnessed, and I've been tangentially near a lot of conversation this year about community building and about the importance of proving authentic human connection and human relationships and making sure that you have genuine and authentic relationships with your audience, your fans, your readers, your buyers, whatever content it is that you're putting out there. But I've also been a part of a lot of conversations where people are talking about how that is getting harder and harder to do for various reasons. A lot of reasons, quite literally, community spaces are harder and harder to find. No universally accepted solution has come out to replace Facebook groups.
I see. So you're talking about actual platform technology. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
I think that there's a lot of different ways that people are finding, people are using email newsletters as a community building tool, but those do tend to be one-way avenues. And even in the event where the email recipient can email back to the sender, they still can't talk to the list as a whole. There are people that are using Discord or Circle or Patreon or whatever, Mighty. Yeah. There are a lot of different options, but none of them are universally accepted. None of them are everybody has this downloaded. Everybody has a Discord account. Everybody has Circle. None of those are it's super easy for the average person to join this community space. And especially as you're turning towards younger and younger consumers, people are, when I was doing the research for the last episode we did, I saw a stat somewhere, I think it was HubSpot, that I think it was almost 60% of businesses say their primary demographic, target demographic is millennials and Gen Z. So millennials and Gen Z are not on Facebook.
No.
So there is, right.
How many people are actually on Facebook anymore? Real live human beings. I don't care what age bracket you fall into, but I'm in the 50s now and I'm not on Facebook and haven't been.
Literally the only reason that I still have a Facebook account is that I need it for work every now and then because I'm the backup for Lulu's Facebook account.
I actually have one. There's no activity on it. I had to open it. I needed to access something at Facebook Marketplace one time. But the point is, it's a dumpster fire. They'll never get it. In fact, it just gets worse and worse. Yes. Meta as a company in general, out of all the social platforms, to me is the worst one. Everything they do is just pure intentional garbage.
Yeah.
It's just it's just putting noise into the market for the sake of having their name out there and attached to everything, but nothing of any real true value. I mean, you know, argue with me if you want, but Meta has not offered any real true value to anybody on this planet.
I'm not going to argue with you on
Yeah,
that one. I
it's
completely
garbage.
agree. But I do think that we are kind of reaching a breaking point with that, where people are going to be putting more active effort into not just building community spaces, but also actually attempting to find a way to do that successfully.
Yeah.
Because I think that it is becoming more and more important.
To go back to what you said, I think that's extremely astute, and I agree with it, that it's not that there's not enough platforms and tools. It's that there is no universal one that everybody agrees is the best, and I don't know if there ever will be. So the problem is you have this group of tools, these communities, these places, whether that's Facebook groups, Discord, Circle communities, Mighty, you name it. There's a ton more, by the way. And somehow authors are really good at finding the most obscure one as well, because it was free or something and they wanted to try it, and like nobody can get in and it's terrible and it has downtime every week. But then you also have over here this growth and popularity in communities. So if you're somebody who's an avid reader like we are, or lots of others out there, or the type of person who would be in a community, you probably have a ton of communities you want to be in.
Right.
And how feasible is that? When you've got, let's say, 10 authors that you want to be a part of their communities, right? Which is great, but all 10 of them use a different platform. I mean, that's just not feasible. You'd have to quit your job, ignore your kids and anything else that you had in your life just to be a part of those 10 different communities.
Yeah.
So I think community is great, but it does bring inherent problems. And until, somebody finds, or a group of people find creative ways to solve some of these issues, they're just going to continue. I do think community will continue to be a thing, but I think it's going to get more loosely defined. Right now, we say community, we mean, a place, an app, somewhere you go to communicate and interact with other fans of this particular author or this series or whatever that might be. But I think it's going to have to get more loosely defined to include lots of other types of, person-to-person interaction things, because of the two things that we just touched on with community. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that we're going to see a lot more of that conversation ongoing in the next year, and a lot more people trying to explore different solutions for how to solve that problem.
It's funny because as much as I dislike Meta, and especially Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg, quite frankly, all of it, they had the corner on the market for the longest time with Facebook groups. Everything else they do, they ruined it.
Yes.
And that's why a lot of these others were able to kind of come up from the bottom. And again, I don't think there'll ever be one solution, like a universal one would be great, but I do think you'll over time you will see a lot of the other ones dropping off in the big ones that have figured it out. They'll stick around, and maybe it will get easier to be a member of certain, multiple communities that have apps and or spaces that work really well. But I don't know.
Yeah, I think we'll just have to wait and see. All right, what else you got? What's your third one?
My number 3, surprise, surprise, has to do with direct sales.
Whoa.
That's right. But again, I'm a little more focused on publishers and businesses, but I think direct sales will continue to grow in adoption amongst authors and publishers because the tools are going to get better, and retail platform sales are getting worse. We've heard a lot of feedback this year from publishers and publishing companies, specifically, that sales from Amazon have dropped. They've declined. Sales from some of the other retail platforms have declined in most of the genres and areas that they sell books in. Obviously, there's a few key genres and areas where sales are still holding pretty strong on several retailers and in several areas. But I think direct sales affords the opportunity to be able to do some of the things that you can't. We just talked about building connections with readers and audiences. Direct sales allows you a different way to do that. As a publisher, I don't know that I'm super stoked to jump into building a community around one of my authors. It sounds like a nightmare, right? And it probably is, although a lot of them have done it in one way or another, and some have been successful, most have not. But direct sales does afford me the opportunity as a publisher to, build an email list. And now I've got an email list of all people who have spent money on this author's title or titles. It's a very direct two-way communication, but it's still a form of community where now I have a much easier way to go out and pre-sell new titles from this author. I have a much easier way to communicate to this author's fans, and in a way that I, as the publisher, have control over. By the way, publishers historically in the past have not had a whole lot of control over a lot of things. They kind of get a bad rap to a degree, and we've perpetuated that to some and probably always will, but they're just one part in a chain. If anybody has the true power, or did, over a lot of things, it was the distributors for the most part, and the retailers, but that sales component. But I think publishers were going to start embracing more and more. Some are already doing it, and some do it well. Abrams Books does some direct sales from their site. They do it pretty well. I don't think they do it for all their titles by any means, but a lot of backlist or deep backlist stuff, some new title, front list pre-orders, things like that. There's other publishers that are experimenting with it, but combining, print-on-demand models with direct sales, whether that's through direct APIs or Shopify integrations or things like that, they're going to gain so much by way of that direct audience connection. They're going to see double-digit increases in their profit margins per title when you switch over to a direct sales print-on-demand model, especially for either deep backlist or out of print. Like, that's huge, double-digit. So in terms of margin, they're so razor thin in the book industry for everybody, whether you're a distributor, a retailer, a publisher, the author, the printer. Everybody in that supply chain has razor thin margins that they're fighting to gain even half of a percentage point on. Like, half of a percentage point on margin, on profit margin, is tough. So anytime you can gain a full percentage point, multiple or even double-digit percentage points, like, that's an opportunity you want to jump at. So when you look at what direct sales affords you, when that's implemented properly, especially with a print-on-demand model, there's just no arguing with that. And they're seeing, the ability to cut down on some of that warehouse space we talked about, some of those labor and resource-intensive processes that come with, again, holding on to 20,000 copies of a book in a warehouse and having to record the obsolescence and deal with returns and things like that. So I think direct sales will obviously continue. Just like AI, it is one of the biggest conversation points in any author, publisher, or reader event we go to, mostly author and publisher. But I think we're going to see a lot more of the benefits being displayed in the data in 2026.
I think there's also a lot of wasted opportunity for remarketing within traditional publishers that aren't using direct sales.
Yeah. Not
just remarketing in the sense of like, hey, this author that you've already purchased from, like, they have a new book out in case you didn't know it. Mm-hmm. Like, that's a great opportunity. But also, hey, you bought this book earlier this year and you really liked it. We have a new book coming out by a debut author that
has a very similar style.
And we're using this other book that you bought as a comp title for this one. We think you're going to love this one. Mm-hmm. But I think also, especially in not just fiction but nonfiction, there's a lot of ways to put out, hey, you buy this annual, like, you buy this calendar every year, you buy this almanac every year, you buy this planner every year, letting you know it's out now. Or you do this. There's a new edition of this book that you bought previously. Yeah. There's a sequel to it now, whatever. There's a lot of opportunity there that gets wasted when they're using third-party retailers. And I think that traditional publishers accepting direct sales,
it's missed opportunity.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, it can be wasted too if they don't, if they grasp it and then don't utilize it properly. But it's missed opportunity. And that's a bigger, I think, problem. It's one thing to grasp the opportunity and then fail at it, which would be a wasted opportunity. But it's a whole nother thing to not even have that opportunity because you're not implementing the tools, right? So it is a missed opportunity, which I think is worse. And I think you're right. And it's not just about, like you said, a specific author and just only talking to them about that specific author because that's who they signed up to get. But, if I'm a publishing house, it doesn't matter, Chronicle Books, and we're going to have a big booth at BookCon, and we're going to have 5 authors signing or whatever, like, I'm going to be hitting my entire email list. I don't care which author you signed up to get emails from, but if I've got you on my email list and we're going to have a booth at BookCon and we want to get as many readers as we can to our booth for these, like, again, a great opportunity to make sure that your book con is successful,
Yeah.
that your booth does really well, right? That your authors have lines out the door of the Javits Center to get their books signed. So missed opportunities. Yeah, absolutely. And, whether or not they waste them later, that's on them, and their marketing team. But a missed opportunity, I think, is worse. And you're right.
Fair.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What's your third and final?
I am going to end with a slightly baseless prediction, but I'm going to make it anyway. I think that we are going to see an uptick in people that are using print on demand as a way to monetize their content next year. I think that whether it's because people want a passive revenue stream and a side hustle, or because people are tired of the corporate workforce and want to get out of it. That's hard to say. Why is that so hard to say? Corporate workforce. I don't know. Regardless, I think that there are going to be a variety of different motivating factors that are going to have casual creators, hobbyists, etc., start actually monetizing, creating some kind of small business, content, entrepreneur business, brand, whatever, in general, but also specifically using books.
Yeah, I think so. The keyword there's uptick, right?
Yes, because it's always, obviously that's something that's already happening.
Right.
But I think that we're going to see like a spike in that in the next 6 to 12 months.
Yeah. I mean, since 2021, print on demand as a whole, as a model, as a market, let's say print on demand books, not all of print on demand as a whole. Sorry. Since 2021 has definitely been trending up every year, month over month, year over year. We, as a brand, as a company, this year alone, we're up 20% roughly, right? And have been trending up as well since 2020-ish. Because of that, right? The accessibility of print on demand in such a way that does allow you or empowers you to monetize your content, combine that with a lot of the tools, some that we've talked about today, some that we've talked about in the past. Yeah, it's just not, there's no longer a huge barrier to entry when it comes to monetizing your content. And the fact that if you play your cards right, discoverability can be very easy to find your niche group of fans, or I won't even say fans, just people, right? Like, I joke sometimes about, there's got to be a group somewhere that meets fairly regularly, and their whole thing is like, going to Disney World dressed like a goth and, eating churros.
Sure.
But that's a thing. Like, they have a club built around, like, there is somebody for everybody. So yes, being able to use a print on demand model to monetize your content, especially if you're now learning how to do the work to find your audience, there's virtually no barrier to entry there. It's just your time, right? Like, find the audience, build the product, get it into market, connect the two, rinse and repeat. And it's a model that doesn't really require hardly any money up front, unless of course you're paying, an editor or a designer, which PSA you should. But nonetheless, that's also something that can be done relatively inexpensively these days. So yeah, I think you're right. I think the uptick will actually be very noticeable.
Yeah.
And not everybody shares their data. We're happy to share ours, and we'll certainly share ours next year. But I bet you're right about that. I bet uptick is probably an understatement.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think you're right. I think if we let's say 6 months from now, we talk about the trend of POD for new users coming into the ecosystem. Yeah. I bet it's more than an uptick.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so. And hey, if you want any advice on how to do that, you should go check out Matt's new book. I'll plug it if you won't.
Honestly, I keep forgetting about it.
I know, that's fair. Well, I'm actually going to use that as a jumping point to make some fun predictions for next year.
All right.
So feel free to join in. And that my first one is going to be, I think you're going to write and publish another book next year.
Me?
Yep. I think you got bit by the bug with that first one, and I think you're going to have another one by the end of 2026.
We'll see. I also anticipate a busier year for myself in 2026.
That's fair.
So I don't know.
Okay.
I like that idea. And you're right. I've got a list of things that I wanted to write about. That list has existed for a little while, but it definitely got larger after finally publishing this book. But it does boil down to time.
Yeah. No,
And
I get that.
I'm historically terrible with time management.
Same.
Everybody that works with me has that same reaction you just had, but I don't know. We'll see. I agree. That's why I keep pushing you, though. I think if you finally would just publish one of these things you're working on, the world's in trouble.
Well, that's another one of my predictions is that I will finally finish my Epcot passport that I've been working on since April and is a grand total of 48 pages long. So it should not have taken me 9 months. But here we are. I will finish it in 2026, come hell or high water.
I think you will, too.
I will.
I don't know if I have any fun ones
No?
for 2026. I don't know. I'm not a planner. I'm not a person that really puts pressure on myself for things like that. But if I think beyond myself for 2026, fun predictions. Actually, one for myself is I am going to go to Disney parks at least 4 to 5 times next year.
I like it.
Yeah, I did not go nearly enough this year, and it shows. I've been a very grumpy bear all year.
We had almost this exact conversation last year.
Did we?
We did. We both said, it was towards the end of, it might have been in the recap episode where we both said, it's been too long, didn't go enough. That's why I've been so grumpy. Got to go more next year. And I will say that me and my annual pass absolutely did. I will be there on Saturday. I'm going this weekend.
What I need to do. Maybe I need to buy an annual pass, and then I'll feel like I have to go more often to get value out of the pass. That's probably a good play. Maybe I'll look into that.
Well, one of my plans for 2026 is that I will be doing a very nerdy study on whether or not I'm getting the most value possible from my annual pass, like whether or not it is worth it. So my original plan with getting it was that year one was going to be just, see, like just to have it, just see what happens. And now for year two, I want to actually go through and genuinely keep track of like every time I use it, what the cost would have been to get into the park that day, every time I use it and save money when I get the discount on whatever I'm buying, like how much money did I save, and add all that up at the end of the year and say, is this worth the annual investment? Is this something that I should keep doing every year? Or was it a 2-year experiment that I should spend that money on something else in the future?
Now, do you have the non-resident version or the resident version?
No, I have the non-resident version. Okay. Despite the fact that I now have technically both of my parents as Florida state residents.
Yeah, but I think that adds a nice twist to it.
Yes, I do too.
So, yeah.
Which, because absolutely, obviously, I think that if you live in the state of Florida, it's absolutely worth the expense.
That's a no-brainer.
But as somebody who's living a 10-hour drive away, is it still worth the expense?
Yeah.
Because it's not cheap. So.
No, it's not.
No, it's not. But yeah, that'll be more time at Disney for both of us. Why not?
Yeah, why not?
Why not?
I don't really think I have any other stuff that I would want to go on record as saying. I do think, however, though, I almost put this in my 3 and I hesitated. I'll put it out there now, but I think we're already seeing an undercurrent of a lot of indie published writers and authors and creators getting traditional publishing contracts a lot more than you ever did in the past. I think you're definitely going to see more of that next year, but I also think you're going to see a lot of the opposite. So we're already also seeing, traditionally published authors trying self-publishing or jumping completely to self-publishing. I think you're going to see more of that too, especially as the ones who negotiated their contracts years ago, who maybe didn't get the benefit of what's going on right now and have the ability to to manage some of their own rights and or things like limited editions or direct sales or coming to end of life on their contract and jumping ship or but I also think it's going to work both ways. I think as traditional publishers, like we said, get more accommodating of these types of things and even start taking a lot of sales and distribution under their own control where their profit margins get bigger so they can afford to give authors a little more flexibility. You will start to see more and more people who had indie published, who have built a big audience. The traditional publishing house goes, great book, big audience, let's get them. And they'll go.
Yes.
And they'll negotiate better contracts. But so I think we're going to see a much larger two-way return there between traditional publishing and indie publishing next year. But I didn't necessarily want to put that in there on the record as one of my top 3. But
Well, it's okay. We'll add it as a bonus.
yeah.
Because I think that's a very good one. Yeah.
All right. So who's cleaning all this confetti up?
You.
Me?
Yeah.
Why?
It was your idea.
It was my idea, but it was a good idea.
No, I'll clean it up. After lunch, though.
Do we have a vacuum here in the office?
Not one that's good enough to clean this up. I think we need a rake, actually.
Oh, yeah, I could have brought my rake in if I'd have known this was going on.
Oh,
I have a
shame.
blower, a battery-powered blower. We could just blow it all out
Perfect.
there outside of the studio into in the customer support team's work area.
Rest assured, I will get this cleaned up. Don't you worry. I will
help
get
you.
it cleaned up before we record our next episode.
I'll help you, but I need
For
to eat.
2026.
I need to eat first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's go find lunch.
Okay.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for hanging out with us, not just for this hour, but also for this whole year.
Yeah,
It's been a good year.
Yep.
It's been a good 100 episodes.
it has.
And I am super excited to see what happens from 101 on. That's my last prediction. I think that we're going to hit some really cool milestone next year. And I don't know what it's going to be. Like, I think something is going to happen in 2026 that's going to be like, whoa. Like like we hit a listener goal or we hit like a like download goal or something. Like I feel like something is going to happen in 2026 that we're going to go, whoa, that's pretty cool.
Well, just so Lauren's not disappointed, everybody go out there and tell your friends about our podcast.
Yeah, please do.
Give us a review.
Like and subscribe.
Help her hit whatever this mysterious
I'll noodle on
thing
it.
is going to be.
And maybe in our first episode of the next year, I will
Okay.
let you know what goal I'm setting.
All right.
So in the meantime, have a great holiday season. Have a great rest of the year. Thanks for joining us. And we'll be back next year
Yep.
with
Later.
more new episodes. See ya. To learn more about this episode, check out the show notes on publishprosperpodcast.com. Publish and Prosper is brought to you by Lulu.com. To hear more episodes like this one, please like and subscribe wherever you listen. Thanks for tuning in.